Hey, good morning,
Good
Matt. How's it
morning.
going?
It's going pretty well. How about you?
Not too bad. Can't complain. We avoided a lot of the crazy weather this last week, so I was able to get out and get some miles early this morning. Coffee's still kicking in,
Yeah.
so I mean, not a lot to complain about this morning.
So outside runtime for you. Very nice.
Yeah, it's still a little chilly, but it's not snowing or raining or super wind, so I'll take it before it gets 100 degrees and humid and all that fun stuff. So.
So I know we normally talk sports stuff at the beginning. We will, but I have an exciting running thing. I am super pumped that for the first time in 20-ish years, a Nike shoe fits my foot. I don't know
Ooh.
what changed, but for the longest time, I couldn't wear them because like they just hit in a weird spot. And this year, needed some new shoes. Tried on this year's just regular old Nike running shoe, and lo and behold, fits. Very, very excited. I know it's not a big deal, but I had not been able to wear them in a really long time.
Mm.
So
I know
I'm excited.
the first time I actually got properly fitted for running shoes, I went to a Fleet Feet in Minnesota. This was years ago at this point, and went through, did the running analysis to get
Oh,
the
that
scan and
scan
all
they
that
do
stuff,
in
right?
the
And he brought out like 5 or 6 different shoe pairs, and I was like, I really wanted the Brooks Ghost just because they sounded cool and they look cool, but I like tried them on and like they felt all right, but they weren't it, right? And in my mind, the one that I didn't want was the New Balance box, because I'm like, come on, man, like I'm just a dad, I don't need the dad shoe yet. So we go down the line, we try on all the shoes, and then we get to the New Balance one, and I put it on, and it's legitimately like that scene in Harry Potter when he finds his wand, like shoeboxes started vibrating off the shelf, like that my foot started glowing, like it was the perfect fit, and I was like, man, I didn't want this one, but like this is the one. So I'll never forget that feeling of like this is the like best fit, and I don't wear them currently anymore. I've switched to a Masakani or Hoka, depending on your trail or road. But yeah, when you get that perfectly fitting shoe, man, it's magic.
It's funny how that changes. Like for quite a while, I would wear New Balance 1080s, and if you're not a running shoe geek,
Mm.
that's a pretty high cushion shoe.
Yep,
Not
that's the one.
useful for speed though, but pretty comfortable for like daily runs. And in the last model year or two, they didn't fit as well all of a sudden. Like something changed in them. So it's very strange. Like right now, Nike, Hoka both fit me well. Pair of Asics fit me well, which also hadn't fit in quite a while. And New Balance kind of stopped fitting. Like so, it's funny. It just seems to change year to year. Um,
So, yeah,
but
as
on the
soon as you
sports,
say, as soon as you find that shoe that you love, they like make a new model and change everything. And yeah, a lot of sports
right?
stuff to talk about this week. I know Henry's Cubs have the same record as the White Sox, so that's great. um, March Madness started this week, so already some crazy upsets. The Clemson got upset by, what is it, McNeese State. I just saw that the gif of the Clemson Tiger looking disappointed in the mascot, and it was pretty awesome. So
That's all you, Josh. So I have this theory that people from I don't really follow college sports at all, and I've always had this theory that people from the New York City area don't really get into college that much because there are just so many pro teams down there that it's common, right? You get so enamored with following whatever teams you follow from that area. A lot of people where I grew up just don't really follow NCAA, and me included. Like, just never really was a thing for me.
yeah, I don't claim allegiance to anything. I just like March Madness because it's fun. I mean, the
Fair
crazy
enough.
like 64 teams, anything can happen. The Cinderella stories. You go to like a beat ups or whatever sports bar, and there's like a different game on all the TVs. Like, so it's a blast. When I
All
worked
right.
at
Well,
Buffalo Wild
we
Wings, that was my favorite week. Anyway,
We can talk sports. In fact, we may talk sports if we ever get the sports show off the ground that we talked about forever. I'm waiting for opening day at this point. But let's bring out our other guest who is waiting in the green room patiently for us, probably thinking, why are these guys talking about sports? This is an IT tech show. Um, Reagan, great to see you. We figured we wouldn't let you sit there all day while Josh and I talked about shoes.
Well, I mean, these are topics I love. So you guys were talking about shoes, and I would have said, yeah, I got my on clouds. I have like 85 pairs at this point. And then I would have started talking about, yeah, my bracket's in first place so far, 98 percentile. I got the flame next to my name. And you guys just went right through it. And now you want to talk IT with me. I'm the opposite. Let's talk about all the other things.
We can talk about shoes if you want. Actually, I've never actually tried the on clouds for running shoes. Dude, how do you like them?
I like them. So I was a Hoka guy before, and mainly because it gave me another 4 inches, which was always kind of fun to run in. I felt like I was floating on clouds and a little bit taller. But I got a pair of on clouds. Geez, it was probably like 6 or 7 years ago when people still looked at them funny and didn't even know what they were. It took me a little bit to find the right one for running, right? There's one that I've got for kind of the everyday. There's the one I have for playing tennis and pickleball. Then there's the one I actually have for running. And finally, kind of to your point about your own Nike experience, I found that running version and it felt fantastic. And I'm like, all right, I'm all in. The problem is my wife just doesn't like that a new pair of shoes shows up every other week. And that I have more shoes than her, but it is what it is. I'm not going to be ashamed.
Absolutely. And just to add to the chaos, as I've admitted, I started playing pickleball not too long ago, and Nike court shoes don't fit me at all, 0%. Even though the running shoes fit pretty well.
Yeah, good. Try out a pair of Olukai. Look at Olukai pickleball shoes. I even moved off from my on clouds to those, and they're fantastic. And they have a year guarantee, and I've already full swapped mine out.
on the.
I play a lot.
So the our golf course is open officially next week. So last year I kind of transitioned from disc golf to actual stick and ball golf, and nice. I was playing around in the rain with a buddy, and I was like slipping all over. He's like, "Dude, you got to get some golf shoes that have like the spikes on the bottom." And so I went to our local golf store, and I found these like Skechers that had like decent padding, and they had the spikes, and I'm like, "Man, those make such a difference." So yeah, you got to accessorize, right? You have to have a shoe for every activity. Right. It's important.
I respect that. You gotta do it. I respect that you're playing in the rain. I hope you've seen the movie Caddyshack, because that could have been your moment, right? That could have been your perfect round.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, we should probably get into these stories here. So
this concludes the MSP footwear report.
Yep. But if you guys ever want, I'm a shoe nerd, so like hop in our Discords and our communities and let's talk shoes. But right now we're going to go into the first stories here. And the first one here is, how do you provide generative AI to clients? This person works for an MSP managing mostly small businesses under 100 people average. We tried going the Copilot route and has proven to be tragically useless. ChatGPT has an enterprise option, but it's only offered if you purchase 150 license. Other you're stuck with the team option, where you can't even voice to FA. Waiting to hear about Claude. So basically, they're just wondering, what do you do? They're even looking at hosting open source models and stuff. So I have my answer, but let's pitch it to you guys. How are you providing generative AI to clients or to people asking for it?
All right, so Matt, I'm going to step on this landmine really fast, and I'm going to go back and say, first, tell your clients to go talk to their attorneys and ask their attorneys what they can do first. I remember when AI started becoming a bigger thing, and machine learning and all that. And I'm like, hey, don't worry, clients. I'll build a policy. I'll work with what CISA is saying. I'll work with what the government agencies are saying, which of course was not a lot of anything. And I started trying to build out these policies, but as you all know, it kept on changing every other second. And then of course, with some of my bigger clients are like, hey, the law firms would like to look at your AI policy. And I kind of felt like that scene out of Major League. I don't know if anybody else has that tradition like I do, of watching Major League before any before baseball season starts. And there's that part where Corbin Burnson's taking the ground balls, and the guy's like, no, you got to get in front of those. And if not, you got to do push-ups or sit-ups. He's like, it's not in my contract. And he hands it to the manager, and the manager throws the contract on the ground and just urinates all over it. I felt like that's what this law firm did to me when I submitted my AI policy. And so I've taken this new stance where when my partners are like, hey, what should we do for AI? I said, you talk to your attorneys first, and then I'll tell you what we can do with it. I know that's not the answer for this one, but that's just your advisory warning of please make sure you have their law firms decide what they can and cannot do, help develop policy, and then kind of come back into it. And then I'll let Matt kind of give his spiel, and then I'll tell you what kind of products we're using. But I at least want to put that advisory out there first. Don't get urinated on.
I love that. Sometimes I feel like I'm on the plane for Major League when I fly back to Rochester. Tiny little airport. So the one thing I want to hammer on is this to me sounds like a case of expectation mismatch between what the client expects and what the MSP thinks they're able to provide. And what I mean by that is what's calling me out is like we went the Copilot route and found it kind of useless. And what I think they're really saying here, or what they're really discovering, is that, man, AI is a little overhyped at the moment. It is very useful for things like summarizing or like content creation, or what's another way to say this, or things like that. I almost kind of wonder if the frustration they're seeing around Copilot is, hey, it's actually not magic, and they were expecting it to be this, absolutely magic productivity tool, and it's just not that. And this may be a little pedantic of me, but hearing the word provides is a little bit scary to me in this, in that you're not really providing the AI service to your client, right? You're just enabling, giving a service, no different than any other tool, right? 365 productivity suite, anything like that. If I have a client, you really need to think about to what degree you're going to be helping your clients with prompt engineering, with tech support, or if you start going down the road of operational support with them. And that opens a whole Pandora's box of, do you just help them get Copilot up and running and help them do it securely? Or are you providing operational production support? And it's a really big conversation and something to think about before going down the AI road of the clients. But hearing this story, I kind of default to either the MSP, the client, or both kind of bought into the AI hype a little bit too much and have mismatched expectations as a result.
Yeah, and I think this is more of the it comes down to the client education piece on it. Is we've had clients who are like, hey, we want AI, and we have a conversation with them like, well, what do you mean by that? Like, there's AI in almost all of our vendor tools and stuff that we use. So like, what are you looking for? And it's like, the first thing to Reagan's point is like, yeah, what's your acceptable use policy state? Because you want to ensure that your employees aren't just uploading willy-nilly proprietary information, sensitive information, all this stuff. And that's where, it might not be the best one, but Copilot is supposed to keep all of that information within your tenant versus an open source one with ChatGPT, Gemini, etc. So having the education on that piece alone. And then from there, you have to look at your data access. Like if you don't have the right permissions and set up, if you don't have like your data properly classified and people have information to things that they shouldn't have, well, your Copilot or other AI stuff can also expose that. So looking at, inwards, getting you ready for that AI. But when it comes time to, okay, it's secure, let's flip the switch. As far as training on it, our security awareness training platform does have a handful of AI trainings, which are great. There's one on how to use it securely, and there's one on how to use it more efficiently. We've pointed to a couple YouTube resources, a couple Udemy resources, because the prompt engineering is something in itself. And we can say, hey, this is what we use it for, because every department's going to use it differently. Your marketing department might use it for PowerPoint or ad campaigns, things like that, versus like, what a lot of what I use it for is recording meetings and doing the transcribing and the following of notes and things like that. So you can't really, unless you're going through and you're building out like a private containerized LLM in Azure, AWS or something, which like, I guess if you want to do that, you do you, but I don't recommend against it. Like, you're not really providing AI. You're, I think, more of the education piece. You're the person you're the technological advisor. You're supposed to, according to the client, understand this better than them. So, informing and informing your client and giving them the information so they can make an educated business decision, I think, is where we need to draw the line at AI at this time.
Yeah, just to kind of put a bow on it, I love what you guys are saying. Where we've gone with it is we've created a committee, a steering committee with all of our clients on this, right? So you get a few of the department heads or people who care about this and get them in a room, which can be kind of a fight night sometimes, but it's generally to what you're saying, Matt, it's a lot about, okay, what are you wanting it to do? What are you trying to get out of it? Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, that conversation gets to actual machine learning, and actually they're trying to optimize their jobs more so than trying to have something where they can get different answers to far out questions, right? But I think that having the conversations, you guys hit the nail on the head. That's the key. That's how we are to manage their expectations and then allow them to kind of make the decision based off the information that we can collectively provide.
Perfect. All right. Well, we fixed that one, so let's go ahead and solve the next problem.
Yeah, we've solved AI.
Yeah. So this one I think is a great story. This one is on Reddit, and then he popped into the MSP Discord and was also asking the same question, and it led to a lot of good conversations. So I think this would be a great topic for the show here. So the client documentation. This person posted it's the first time working in IT and at an MSP. He's been there for at least 2 years, and they have an estimate of 30 to 40 break fix and contracted customers. Contracted customers are the managed, but there's himself and another tech who does it, and then there's another tech that kind of supports as needed. Their documentation right now is just Word documents and folders for each of the customers in SharePoint. The Word documents just have very basic network diagrams, a basic overview of the site, who to contact, and just very basic overviews. There's no KBs, there's no unique, there's also no procedures on like updates, software management, etc. The passwords for every customer, which is about 50 plus some sites, is stored in a password manager. They do have some stuff for old clients, which is just a database file on the NAS, and it's had the same password for a while. Customers have to ask us access for their passwords, and then we print it out and hand it to them. As for the documentation, customers don't know if any, if all, exists. So he's trying to change this. He's been utilizing OneNote to write notes on a few customers and the fixes. So he's trying to build like a knowledge base, a KB database. And he's tried suggesting to the other tech that, hey, we should probably look into things such as like a Hoodoo or IT Glue or some sort of documentation platform. They basically said, well, Word documents, like we have those, like why can't we just use those and update them accordingly? He feels that he doesn't have enough experience in the job, so he doesn't have the weight to pull. But like, how should we document the customer? Is he in the right? Is he in the wrong? What would your advice be to him?
Man, I'm going to say something potentially spicy on this one, and that is
let's go Topper.
The right documentation system is the one that you'll actually use, right? If the way your team is composed lends itself to storing procedures and stuff in Word documents, then that could be the right option. Now, there's a huge amount of benefits to using a real documentation system, wikis, SharePoint, dedicated documentation tools like Hoodoo, IT Glue, etc. But I have seen so many times that happened to me where you spent like a year trying to figure out what the right documentation system is, setting all the metadata and everything. And next thing you know, it's December 30th. You started January 1st and you have nothing documented yet. So I will point out, yeah, there's benefits to all these, but man, just pick something. And if Word documents or like some plain text wiki, like not that I would necessarily use that or pick that myself, if that's what your team is good with, then that could be the right answer. Yep. Not for passwords though.
Matt, I feel like I'm taking your seat and you're taking mine. So I got anxiety just listening to you read that, because of course my first inclination or concern is security, right? And my answer will always be, what's the most secure way to have the documentation on all of your clients? The second that someone gets into your documentation and takes advantage of all your clients, and you're out of business. And then now these days you can go to jail, right? So I get a little nervous around the security that's kind of layered into that. Now you can make it a little bit better with SharePoint, and to Matt's point, you can even have Copilot kind of helping you with those things. But I'm probably a little more old school when it comes to this. Like I really believe that your staff should be in a system that's repeatable. that people can come into, and they understand the process behind it, and you can basically hand it to just about anybody, and they go, all right, I log into IT Glue or I log into Hoodoo, and this is how it's all going to go, and they get the culture of your organization. And I think a big part of this, and maybe to even the point of the article or the comments, is how big is your organization too, right? If it's just a few people, then I think you can do exactly what Matt's describing, do what's comfortable with you. But if you're trying to build for growth and you want people to come in and be able to step into an opportunity where they can be successful, I think getting a proper document management tool is the way to go. And that's what I would recommend, especially because there's so many cool little things that you can do with it beyond what you're probably seeing through using Word or any of the other the other things that they're using right now. So security first, lean heavy into that, and then functionality would be close second behind that for sure.
Well, the other side too is if the MSP is doing this, it's pretty obvious that they're not a operationally mature MSP. I mean, if you look at the OM level, they're definitely a level 1. So if you are coming in, you have 2 years experience, and you've noticed a problem, you have to bring this up. Like you have to get buy-in from the top down. And if you're trying to make a competing standard that somebody doesn't have buy-in to, well, then you go to the XKCD comic where it's like, well, now you have another standard and now it's all over the place, right? Like you're doing it this way, your other tech's doing it this way, where you do need that standard uniform. So you do at some point, hey, you've identified a business issue, and now you need to present a business case to the owner and basically state, hey, these are the reasons that I feel our documentation system isn't great. These are the benefits, and kind of take that project on and lead it and build out the standardization, build out the KPIs, build out the way it is. But again, get that collaboration. Like if your other tech is like, well, I just like use the word documents, like figure out some way that you can kind of use that and make it better at this time. And maybe a tool is the answer. Maybe it's not, right? Especially when it comes to documentation, a tool isn't just going to be the magic bullet that's going to fix it. So, I mean, yeah, like you're going to have to get buy-in and present the case, because if you just go off and do your own thing and so you don't have the buy-in, then unfortunately you're creating a bigger issue at this point, because now some documentation is here, some of it's here, and it's becoming a mess. So that would be my recommendation.
100%.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, well, let's get to our first news story here. This one comes from BleepingComputer. Malicious Android Vapor apps on Google Play installed 60 million times. Over 300 malicious Android apps, collectively called Vapor, were downloaded 60 million times from Google Play. Initially discovered by IAS Threat Lab and later confirmed by Bitdefender, these apps performed large-scale ad fraud and phishing. The apps appeared legitimate, offering tools like fitness trackers and QR scanners, but downloaded malware after installation. They showed ads on full screen overlays, disabled exit options, and even displayed fake login screens to steal Facebook and YouTube credentials or credit card information. Most apps were uploaded between October 2024 and March 2025. Although Google removed them, experts warn that the threat could return. Users are urged to uninstall suspicious apps and run system scans. So, this one, to me, this goes to like your thinking about security kind of as a whole is like, all right, we're protecting the business. Like we have all of the EDR, the MDR, the XYZ EDR, the SIM, the SOC, and all this stuff in play. But if you can just, go on your phone and personal device, download these apps, like it's a very often overlooked entry point to these. So curious what your guys' thoughts on this are and how you're protecting against this.
So my initial thought on this is it's very similar to the case of using personal devices like your personal desktop or personal whatever. Thinking through the MSP lens, though, the immediate thing that jumps to mind is the ability for things like 365 or other Microsoft apps to containerize themselves and limit the data to their own apps, right? That's without saying like that's the answer, that's kind of the answer on this. You're on an untrusted device, and the way to protect your corporate data on that untrusted device is to not let it leave the protected container. And there are Microsoft can do it. There are also some third parties that can provide that kind of protected container that corporate data stays in. So from my perspective, from MSP with client data on it, don't even let the corporate data ever leave the container, and just assume you're on a hostile device to begin with. As far as the actual issue goes with having potentially malicious apps out there, I mean, yeah, there's potentially malicious apps out there. You just need to utilize some discretion, which I know is easier said than done, right? If there was a flow chart to say, is this app good or not? Well, that would have been implemented with an algorithm already. So barring that, understand that your users may download malicious apps and look to protect yourself on it if you're allowing access from personal mobile devices, which in most cases you have to in some ways. So just try and do that securely.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Don't use Android.
Sorry, come on now. Oh, no.
Let's not get into that.
No.
Sorry, I just wanted to drop that
Only
right
an
in.
hour show.
No, I will not take that slander on this show.
Let's go to the alley and work it out. Okay. But no, I agree with that. That's exactly our practice with our partners, is that we do use the various tools that are out there to containerize and limit what folks can do outside of the Microsoft products or Google products, so that they don't cross-contaminate one another. It's still, of course, it's still concerning. There's always still a way, right? I mean, that's the hard part about IT, is that unless all of our countries decide to be peaceful and play nice with one another, there's always gonna be a loophole. And so you always have to kind of prepare for that. But couldn't agree more. From an MSP lens, containerizing is the best thing to do for sure. And of course, with as many partners who will listen to me, I won't even allow personal devices into the playland of corporate world, and they have to go walk around like my techs do with two different phones. But it's scary stuff, right? It doesn't take much to ruin people's days, lives, careers, and so I think the more protection we can put around it, more policies we can put around it, it's always going to put you in a better spot. But yeah, completely agree with Matt on this one. It's let's containerize those things and limit the target exposure.
Well, and this one for me, the biggest thing comes down to user training. One of the things I do with our clients, obviously, we provide security awareness training platforms that do monthly, yearly, weekly training, et cetera, phishing. But, I like to get everybody in a room and kind of do, in person, obviously better, but, in our virtual world, sometimes it's just a virtual meeting. And I have just a cybersecurity basics presentation where it's a collaborative like Q&A, but I'm going over just basic stuff, and 80% of that is how to protect your personal, like your social media accounts, like the thing like with your Android and all of this, because it affects work, right? It does. Like if your device gets compromised, I mean, there was a story a couple of weeks ago about a Disney employee who downloaded something off of GitHub and it ended up being malicious, and it hacked all of his personal devices and it affected his business. He was on let go from Disney, and his life was upside down. If you there was a security company, Dragos, that they had a new hire and his personal Gmail got compromised, and they used that to get in. So we're going to see, I think, more and more of that. And again, if you have a bring your own device policy, or you're just not aware of it, like these things are out there. One of the things I always harp is like, hey, you probably have a friend of a friend or somebody that has an app on their phone that lets you watch, any movie or anything out there. And it's like, yeah, it's cool to do that, but what permissions does that application that you're installing have? Or exactly like these here, what are you reviewing what these applications are doing, before blindly downloading them and things like that? Just always be vigilant, because these things are out there and they can happen. And I know my wife always jokes oh, tinfoil hat, you don't let us download anything. And it's like, well, that may be true, but I'm trying to keep us safe. If you don't know what you're doing, this thing can happen.
Well, one other point on this, Josh, because you brought up the awareness training thing, that's so huge, right? Because there's a phishing screen that comes up. You could get someone that gives creds. This is another good argument for defense in depth, right? It's up to us as admins to make sure that a threat actor with creds can't do that much, right? With things like MFA or conditional access policies that limited to corporate devices, or just all those kinds of defenses on top of containerizing. Now, nothing, of course, is bulletproof, right? There's always a way, but just try to give more and more roadblocks such that if you assume that a threat actor actively has the creds of your users, think about how you can make it still not necessarily feasible to obtain something. And of course, right, like Reagan pointed out, there is no way to prevent everything, but just think of it from that perspective, right? Assume that your users are going to dump their creds into a phishing page at some point, and try to defend against that.
Well, I mean, I'm actually going to throw an audible here because this was actually supposed to be one of our last stories, but I think we're right on top. We're literally transitioning to this. So, sorry, production behind the scenes, but I'd like to transition to the story that is it embarrassing to click on a phishing link? Because I think we can have a great conversation that we just had about this. So if you could pull that one up, again, sorry, but it just lends itself too well. I mean, that is the story, right? Especially if you're a cybersecurity professional, or Matt or Reagan, if you guys have ever clicked on a phishing link, are you embarrassed? What are your guys' thoughts on that? Or maybe it's not you, maybe it's another trusted person, senior sysadmin that clicks on these. Do you think it's embarrassing? How should we act when that things happens?
Yeah. So knock on wood, many have tried unsuccessfully to get me on a phishing email. And I've had some of the most capable people try to get me. And I'm so paranoid when it comes to that, to the phishing emails. I'm overreading things, doing the whole big thing. But I own this company with a couple of my brothers, and they have fallen occasionally for different phishing emails. And it is 100% embarrassing for them when they do, because of course I make sure everybody knows that they fell for it, right? And I think I know where you're kind of going with this, Josh, where it's should it be an embarrassing thing? I think if you're in IT and you're not eating your own lunch, if you will, and you're not practicing what you preach, and you fall for things because you were rushing through something and all that type of stuff, then yeah, you should be a little bit embarrassed. I think if you're a regular end user, I think it's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to discuss why it happened and learn and train, right? I think what's great about the marketplace right now is that there are so many tools right now that exist for us to be able to minimize the end user impact, right? Or even exposure to it, whether it's through using Inky or Cloudflare, all the different things that are going on are really trying to minimize, oh shoot, they got it. In fact, it's mostly our phishing training emails that they see out more so than anything else, right? Which again is fantastic. But I can definitely tell when my partners, when our partners, we call them partners, not clients, when they're availing themselves to our ongoing end user training and having the conversations and they're paying attention and they're listening, the difference of how they are seeing and interacting with phishing emails and those who don't, right? I know that's obvious to say, right? But it is a stark difference, right? The partners that I have that are totally engaged every time we do trainings and they pass these phishing tests with flying colors, they're just awesome about all the things, not just phishing, but anything else that could come their way. And not to tangent this, but maybe even make it a subject for next time, is that we're even starting to see people go back to snail mail phishing, which I don't even know what you call that, snitching, where someone actually sent a letter to one of our CEOs trying to phish them. I had never seen something like that before, but we had educated this organization to question everything. Seriously, just question everything. And I know it's more of a zero trust type of approach, but yeah, it's been interesting, and the same with staff. I'm horribly that guy who walks around, and if I see one computer on and someone's not sitting at that desk, they're going to get cat pictures all day long, right? And I do that for you, Josh. Nothing but cats. And so it is something that, yeah. And again, I'm really curious to hear what you guys say about this one. But yeah, I still think if you're in tech, you should be embarrassed if you fall for something like that, because you should know better.
I mean, I'll caveat it with you totally we're going to make fun of you, but at the same time, use it as a learning example. You fell not because you're dumb, because you're human, and all it takes is one. So looking back at it, why did it get past your mental filters? Were you stressed? Were you tired? Were you have a lot going on? Or you just mindlessly going to this? Figure out why it happened and how we can prevent it next time. Again, we're human. I'm probably going to make fun of you a bit for it just because we have the report and all of that. But I am
love to build each other up, right?
Yeah, Exactly. But like how I handle security with not only our organization but the clients and stuff like that is I don't lead by discipline. Like I'm not going to yell at you or write you up for failing it. I mean, or we had like a new employee who Sentinel-1 blocked. He tried doing a macro thing like auto hotkey or something, and our EDR blocked it. And it's not like, hey, what are you doing on your computer? Like, what are you trying to do to this? It's like, hey, it did block this. Like, what are you trying to do? And let's figure out a way we can do this safely. Like, let's figure out some other way we can do macros or some other business solution we can collaborate on it. And then kind of the user education piece, like, hey, we can't just be downloading all of these things for XYZ reasons. I mean, really the same with this is like, because all it's going to take is one. It doesn't. What if that wasn't a simulated phishing attack? Like that could have been it. And then to Matt's point too, like if one phishing attack, if one credential like if your credentials are stolen, then that can cripple your entire business. Then it's not really on the user. It's on the business for not implementing security best practices and zero trust. So it does lend itself to looking at the playbook of, okay, let's look at this from this user did click it. What could have happened if that was real? What information do they have? Do they have separate accounts? What are the things that could have been compromised? And how can we use this as a learning example to make it better? So absolutely, yes, you should be a little embarrassed and we'll make fun of you for it. But I think it's a great learning because you're going to learn way more from your failures than you are from just, oh, hey, I didn't fall for this.
The fatigue's a big thing. Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
No, you're good. I agree with both of you. I mean, I I like this show because I can give the non-corporate answer on stuff. Is it embarrassing to click on a phishing link? Yep, sure is. I mean, that's the answer for me and for both of you. I think we would both say, yeah, it's kind of cool that we saw a new technique that got by us, or like be impressed at the engineering of the phishing message or something, but let's be honest, there's going to be a big bruised ego if that happens. The cool phishing email is kind of cope.
Yep, I agree. I mean, yeah, I would laugh if I'd fall for one, but man, would I would definitely have a little bit of a bruised ego for sure. And I would honestly hope you guys would clown on me for it too. So I'm giving you full permission. All right. Well,
what's
I've
your
done
email
a lot
address again, Josh? Yeah. We should start sending some stuff.
I was going to say, I'm totally worried now that I'm going to start seeing a whole bunch of stuff.
Sign me up for them cat facts. Love it. I've done a lot of talking. Matt, I'm going to let you take the next one here, if you would, about the Medusa ransomware coming from our next news story.
You may have to read it because I'm reading my laptop screen and it's postage stamp sized.
I missed one actually. So because I messed up the production and all this, oh, there it is. Okay. If you want me to read it, I definitely can. So, yeah, our next. Okay, we're switching back and forth. We're
potential. Okay, I can read this.
Let's go.
Potential enterprise client first meeting pitching time. Ooh, man, already like got the spidey sense going off when I see like pitching during the first meeting. But we'll ignore that for a moment. What is everyone's process nowadays in the video call meetings to pitch and present their service offering, package, plans, etc.? Are you showcasing a PowerPoint deck? Man, I hope not. With maybe a combination of an Excel sheet for pricing calculation. Are you reviewing the MSA agreement on screen with the client? This is the first meeting. Or are you prepping something specific to that potential client with the limited info that you have? I assume most companies have built out PowerPoint, including the talking points for different business types, but this is how I always operated. I've taken notes from sales teams I've worked with over the phone for years, vendors, but it's much different pitching services versus products. Man, there's a lot I could say about this, and I'm not a salesperson really, but some red flags are going off just from reading that. So I guess I'll start with you, Reagan. What's going through your mind when you see this post?
Oh my gosh. I think, man, is this their first time? Sorry, it's tough because, well, it's really not tough. The first meeting's a listening meeting. I'll just say right out of the gate. And I'm sorry to be that guy looking at all those things. I wouldn't do any of those because when I go and meet a potential client for the first time, whether it's virtual or in person, and I still try as hard as I can to do it in person, I'm listening because they have a lot to say. They're obviously talking to you for a reason, whether they're complaining about their existing partner or they're growing and they don't know what they're doing. I'd say if I'm talking to them for an hour or whatever, however we have it scheduled, I think the first 45 is listening to their problems and talking about potential solutions. And then the next call, or if it even goes that far, is then here are recommendations based off of what you said. So I lean heavy into that. And it did, I admittedly so, and so this hopefully isn't offense to anybody. I was that guy at the very beginning, right? I did throw up all over them, like, hey, here's my company, and here are all the things that we do, and here are our clients, and blah blah blah. And it was overwhelming, and I could see pretty quickly by their body language that was not the way. And I quickly pivoted to more of the strategy of listening. It is a relationship, right? And if you look at a potential partner, potential client, as actually someone that you are trying to create a relationship, whether it's a friendship or any other sort of relationship, if you have success with that, it's because you're a better listener than a talker. So my advice would be scrap all that and go into the pitch having done some research, right? Understanding their industry, the things that they're doing, so that you can empathize and or sympathize with them because they're going to tell you the problems and the reasons they're reaching out to you. And then, after you've listened to their concerns, their issues and their desires, even their dreams, if I may say, then you can talk about how your solutions will fix or improve what they got going on. But that's how I approached the first time.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you're not listening, if you're just going to vomit all over them and like, hey, this is what we offer, you have no idea what their problems are. Like, you just sitting back, shutting up and listening, they're giving you all of the ammo that you need, right? And if you don't, like, you're not going to get that. Like, it's such a powerful tool. And there's a whole, like, with the MSP sales process, especially too, like, this isn't, if you have a one and done sale, that is a abnormality. I mean, your funnel, like top of the funnel to bottom of the funnel is like months, if not year, if not multiple years, especially in the MSP industry. Right. So like, really, I mean, to Reagan's point, that first one, I mean, it's really more of a listening and deciding if you are even like a good fit for them, like if you're going to work for them, because that might not be the case. I mean, really, you're almost looking for ways to disqualify them, as weird as it sounds, right? And making sure that you would be a good fit. And then, maybe your follow-up call is like a discovery call, right? Like, hey, we might be a good fit. So then let's dig a little deeper. Let's discover kind of, the information that I need to provide, the services and the quotes and the solutions and things like that. And, maybe a third one is like a potential, like a paid audit or risk assessment or free, just another free discovery assessment, etc. Things that you can't answer in the first two. And then from there, I think if you're going to have a deck, like have a customized slide deck. I know like we have a template, but we do customize it based off of the client. We take like their mission statement, our mission statement, how we can work together. Obviously verticals, we're going to switch things around. But then we go into like, this is what sets us apart. Here's our differentiators. Here's our recommendations, and then pricing and things like that. But that doesn't happen until like, one of that is not first call for sure, and it shouldn't be the first call. So building the relationship is really the most important thing, I would say.
This to me almost sounds like a fourth meeting or something later down the pipeline when you're talking about potential solutions. One thing though that kind of stood out to me was, this person is talking about having like an Excel sheet up. And to me, if I'm seeing that as the customer, to me, that starts saying, well, just type a different number in the Excel sheet, you can lower your pricing so we can make it. This almost sounds like the typical engineer that started a company and still kind of sees the world through technician terms. And the reason I say that is, it almost sounds like the kind of, and I'm making some assumptions that I could be totally wrong on this, but it sounds like the type of tech who isn't comfortable talking money and pricing yet. And they're like, you can almost see in a physical sense, like they kind of slide the quote over, being kind of nervous, talking about how much their stuff's going to cost. And the Excel thing in particular, for some reason to me, just makes it feel like I'm not totally confident in our pricing, and I want to show you it came from this calculator or something, right? The number's the number. Like, don't be afraid to value your service and talk about this is what it costs. It either works for you or doesn't. And I know there's room for negotiations in most of these, but start from this is the price. Don't start from here's the Excel sheet. Let's talk about where to put the discounts in right from the beginning.
I love that. The takeaway technique. I love the takeaway technique. Oh, is this too much for you? Then I don't think that we're going to be a good fit, because really someone who pays for this is someone who's like-minded and wants to do all these things and blah, blah, blah. Takeaway technique is beautiful. It's almost as good as the 8 Mile technique. If you've ever had an incident with your client and you just go in and you just own it to death and so that they can't say anything bad about it. That's the, it's the M&M 8 Mile technique. But yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head. And I love what you said, Josh, about the, we are qualifying them. I know at the beginning that's hard to say. At the beginning, you're like taking anybody with a pulse because you got bills, right? But I think as you grow and you mature, it really is kind of a filling it out to be like, okay, how are these conversations going to go beyond this? Like, if we partner with this person, anytime I mention security or spending to make something more efficient or what have you, am I going to be pulling teeth every single time? Because then it's not worth it, right? And so, anyway, great counsel, fellas.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's get into the last one here. We got 10 minutes left. So I left us with a fun one. We're going to scrap that story because I just want to have fun with these guys. It's been a really fun show. So we're going to end it with a post from our shitty sysadmin having a penetration test soon. So this guy's thinking the best defense is a good offense. Any tips on attacking their infrastructure? If we're setting up a Cadley with a VPN, it must go both ways, right? Like talking to another human being, communication goes both ways. Thinking about setting up a mirror in the server room so the attack gets reflected back on them. Can you also set up a mirror in the VM for double effect? So really, like, if you're hiring a company to do a pen test, like, you want to at least test them a little bit too to make sure they're secure, right? Like, what are you doing to attack the attacker in this completely made up scenario?
Man, I'm not doing that, but if I can soapbox for a second, when someone's getting it, like, I've seen this so many times. When somebody starts getting a pen test done, that is not the time to go start fortifying everything right before the attackers come in, right? You hired these guys to find the issues in your defense. And so many times I've seen, hey, can you make sure we're secure before the pen test? I'm like, no, they should be pen testing your actual state. So that's my soapbox. I am not getting into attacking the attackers because I hired these guys. That's I have too many things to do to start reverse trying to attack pen testers.
I have a way. If you want to secure the system before the pen test, just start unplugging everything. Like, you can't fail.
It is secure. You are not wrong.
I'm with you on that, Matt. I think if you're having this done because you're trying to see your vulnerabilities, I think the better posture, the better thing to do internally is get your red team ready, right? Like, okay, we're going to have these guys come in. They're probably going to find something. What I want to then see is, what does my team do then, right? The famous right of boom, right? I want to see how they're going to react to it. But I think to go a little bit bigger with this, Josh, and I think it's kind of what you were thinking, is that anytime you would get involved with any vendor, you better ask questions about them. You need to have, if you don't have it already, dude, my CISO, he sent out, I think it was like 40 pages initially, were all the questions I should ask any prospective vendor about how they handle information. It was overwhelming. I got him to shrink it down to like 1 or 2, but that is actually important for all of us. We should be vetting out any and all vendors that are with whom we're going to work, and especially those who could potentially cause damage to our clients, right? Because someone could make a really cool website. Someone could say that all these creds are legit and they were former cyber command or what have you. But if you actually make them put some proof out there as far as how they handle documentation, how they handle even their own infrastructure, you may be surprised. So it's extremely important for us as MSPs to vet people, that especially those that could possibly cause harm to our clients. So push it back, ask them all the questions, then let it roll, and then let's see how good your team is responding to whatever they do.
Absolutely. And when, going back to take a little more serious note, especially when it comes to the penetration testing, make sure you have the scope of work and the level of engagement and all of that stuff, panned out before, so exactly what's going to happen and business isn't interrupted. But to Matt's point too, and this is something that, we work with like other clients and stuff too, is like, before you get a pen test, like that shouldn't be step one, in my opinion. Like if you're not aligned to some sort of security framework and you don't have your best practices and stuff in place, well, like that's what the pen test is going to reveal. Like, let's get you on some sort of security framework, pick whatever one you want, and let's get you, to a mature level 3 of that, or most of the way through that. And then once we're in a pretty good spot, then that's when the pen test can come in and, hey, what things did we miss? What other things can we do to properly secure the environment? Of course, some of you have regulatory requirements and that kind of goes out the window. But to me, I think pen tests are still seen as like the first step. Like, we don't know where to start, so let's get a pen test. When really it should be towards the end. I mean, it should be, one of your last steps after you've already secured the organization. So, all right. Well, we made it through the store. We made it through another show, which is great. So now it's time for free plugs. So go ahead and let us know what you got coming up and what's going on.
Well, the easy plug for me, IT Nation Secure coming up in June. Registration is open. A lot of cool, new, interesting stuff. Going to be a very different show than previous iterations of Secure if you've been there in the past. So looking forward to seeing everyone there.
I'm in DC, so I'm just trying to keep my head above water with all the things that are going on. It's been exciting, to say the least. There's I get a lot of folks asking me a lot of questions about what I feel the pulse is, and we probably could do a whole other show based off of that. But if I could leave one message for those folks that are listening to this, is be a little bit more optimistic than pessimistic. I think there are going to be some awesome changes that are going to create opportunity for those of us in the commercial side of business to do more work on the government side. So keep your to the ground on that one and your eyes open, because I think some changes are going to happen that are really going to create a lot of awesome opportunities for us. And if there's anything I can do to help anybody who's trying to deal with navigating Doge and CMMC and all the things, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're a community, and I look forward to helping people rise together, because this is us against them, not us against each other.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you having on the show. Thanks for jumping in last minute as well. It's great to have you on. As far as myself here, I'm always going to plug irgame.ai. We have our monthly free meeting next Friday with our cloud compromise scenario. This is, again, unlike any other tabletop, any other incident response exercise that you'll go through. I cannot recommend it enough. I'm a little biased because I'm part of it, but please, come hang out. If you're new to incident response, you'll learn a lot. If you're experienced with it, please share your experience. I mean, there was a guy on the last one who was in the private equity, not really in the MSP or anything, and he's like, man, these are things I haven't thought about in 20 to 5 years. I mean, it brought him back to an incident they did to respond during 9/11, and it was really cool just hearing his insight from a private equity point of view versus like an MSP or a sysadmin. So we're getting all sorts of different people, and it is one of my favorite things that I'm a part of. So please come check out the IR game and sign up. But other than that, we will see you next week with more sports news and what's going on in the MSP community. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a great day.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.